Welcome back, everyone, to the very meta how to stream by a streamer or something. When we stopped off, we were just about to look at OBS settings. Oh, sweet. Okay, so just check chat if you want to know about things Greg's done recently to Greg Chat. It's a really good alternative to just capturing the Twitch window. I forgot to mention, if you want to know how to get this thing, usually you will see this if you go to your dashboard, and it's kind of zoomed out. Chat's going to get really small quickly. I apologize for that. But usually when you go to your dashboard, it'll be twitch.tv/ whatever your Twitch username is, / dashboard. This is how you set your streams up. So you can change the name of your stream here and the game that you're playing or the language or whatever. And I just always leave that as programming. And hit update on that. And remember to do this before you start a stream. Have I forgotten to do No. Okay. Remember to do this before you start a stream. Usually your chat would show up here, but I've hidden it because what I usually do is I go to twitch.tv / assertchris / chat in a new window. This helps me size it nicely. But if you do that, then you can have your chat as a separate window, so you don't need to keep the dashboard open. And you can also do other interesting things like resizing the dimensions of that so that it's easier to see in your stream. If you position it like I do over here, I'm basically cutting off the address bar and the top bar of Chrome, and everything else is just the normal chat window. So, okay, so where was I? What was I talking about? Yeah, chat. So the settings that you want to use for OBS are interesting to try and figure out. If, like me, you have a Mac and are perplexed at the lack of options when it comes to information on Twitch about how to set up the Mac client for OBS. There are a few windows you need to do, a few you can just forget about, like hotkeys and advanced. And this general thing, I just never look at them. But stream what you want to do before you start a stream, obviously, because I've started a stream, so I can't change these things. You want to change stream type to streaming services. You want to pick Twitch, and you want to select the server that is the closest to you. So I'm in New Zealand, and the closest server to me is in Sydney. This will give you the lowest upload latency, so people will buffer your stream less. Then you want to set your stream key. If you go back to your dashboard, and you click on that, you can find your stream key. I'm not going to click on it because stream keys you should probably never show on stream. They control what you can do through the Twitch API and what you can stream, and you don't want people to know that, except for you. But you get that from that tab, and then you put it in here. And so once you've got this data in here, you can actually click Start Streaming, and your data will start to stream to Twitch, and it'll be, the videos will be titled, the stream will be titled, the videos it archives later will be titled, whatever you put in here. So remember to set that before you start streaming. Output, the settings that I'm using here, you probably just want to take a screenshot of. Really, I fiddled with many different settings. And at the end of the day, I got to this as a reasonable setup for the bandwidth that I have. So you'll see, I mean, it's doing 22% CPU usage, and when I start playing audio and when I load up PHP Storm and actually use that and a web server, which is usually what I do with PHP work, this shoots right up. So the settings I have here ultra fast means that this is quite low down. Because I'm running at 720p and it's not actually doing any resampling, this is also very low down, so that's really good. And the average upload speed that I have here is this, 855 KB a second, or 850, around about there. And so this works out well with that, because sending audio and video at around a bitrate of 800 means that I can send data to Twitch, and there isn't that much quality degradation, which is really cool. So maybe take a screenshot of this, start with this as a baseline, and then start adjusting stuff if you want to get higher quality and you have higher bandwidth. Up the bitrate a little bit. lower this down if you have a stronger machine. I think those are the only two I would start to fiddle with if I were you. I mean, you can do some interesting things with this if you have a more beastly machine and if you have a faster connection, but this works very well for me. For doing audio, for doing a little webcam of my face, for doing screen stuff without too much degradation. And it results with the settings that I will show you going on. It results in a 720p stream very easily, even on my tiny little MacBook Pro. Recording, you don't need to worry about this. You can, for instance, stream and record what you're doing at exactly the same time, but again, that will take a lot of processing. So probably don't do it because it's going to be quite tough on your machine. Audio, you only need playing games with faster moving items. Yeah. So check what Greg's saying for extra tips. Audio, you only need to worry about this first channel, and I've got it at 48 kilohertz, just because, I mean, that's all I really need for the audio quality that I do. If you're going to be mixing audio on stream, and that's what your stream's about, you probably want to look at bumping this up quite a bit so that you have high fidelity audio. But for me, 48 kilohertz is fine. Then audio settings, sample rate. There's not a lot of options here. The desktop audio device. Remember, I was talking about WaveTap or Soundflower. That's what you set this to, so that the desktop audio is capturing just from WaveTap and not from that aggregate device that you've got. Then the mic, you can use built-in microphone. You can use, if you've got an external microphone, like sometimes I use an external microphone, then you can do that. But built-in microphone works fine. And this also targets headsets. Okay, so if you've got the Apple headset like I use all the time, built-in microphone is what targets that. So set WaveTap or Soundflower, and as mic, set built-in microphone. Usually works fine, unless you want to use a third-party audio thing. Don't worry about push to talk and push to mute unless you want to do really strange speaking into the mic stuff. Yeah. Video, I can't change this now because I'm currently streaming and currently showing stuff on stream. But usually if you haven't started streaming this, you'll be able to change this stuff. The base canvas resolution, I don't think you are able to change this beyond what the resolution is of the screen you're recording on. Okay? So if you've got multiple video adapters, just select the one that is outputting to the screen you want to record. And make sure, if you want to save, okay, don't make sure about this, but if you want to save a lot of processing power, then make sure that SwitchRes X or whatever you're using to switch your resolution to 16 by 9, make sure that that stuff is set. So this, I've set this in SwitchRes X. Yes, OpenGL. What's your point, Greg? Okay, I mean, I don't think it would make that much difference, to be honest. Maybe it does. I haven't tried. I only have OpenGL as an option, so. If you've set your resolution in SwitchRes X to something like 720p or 1080p, make sure that whatever resolution you set in SwitchRes X is the same resolution here, is the same resolution here. If you try and record at a different resolution to what you output, your graphics card, well, OBS and your system, the rest of your system, is going to have to try and resample the video to whatever you've set as an output resolution. So try and keep these the same as what the screen you're recording on is, and this will make this really fast. It means that this downscale filter just doesn't apply. Also, you can set the FPS to 30 unless you're doing video editing or you're doing, you know, a really good game that you need higher FPS for that for. But the FPS here, like if you up this and your bandwidth can't handle it, you're just going to drop frames anyway. So 30 is really good for streaming code like I do. You can go down to 10 if you do code. It doesn't really make a huge difference. But that's that. So stream settings, set up Twitch. Output, just make sure your audio is a reasonable bitrate for what you want to do. And that streaming uses settings similar to this to begin with, and then start tweaking this once you know they work. Audio, remember to set WaveTap or Soundflower and the microphone. And video, try and get these to match the resolution of the screen that you're recording on. which means you won't need the downscale filter. If you do all these settings, like I've shown you, you will have a very good first stream. And if you don't, you're probably going to have trouble. Okay. Now, another thing I want to show you is this mixer panel. If you set up the mic and the desktop audio for those devices I showed, then they will show here, and you can configure them individually by going to one of these options. You can configure their volume. So you may be tempted to like drag sliders back and forth. It's really difficult to do that accurately. Rather go here and rather say the percentage of volume that you want. So desktop audio, I usually keep that around 15%. Combine that with like about 80% in the Spotify app, gives you volume like this, which actually is not overpowering. If you consider that I'm usually doing this and talking while I'm coding, this is an okay level, I've been told. And if you combine this with your audio MIDI setup to set your output volume to 15% to mirror what you're doing in OBS, then it also doesn't sound too loud in your ears. So try that out. Desktop audio 15%, mic audio 95%. I wanted to keep this below 100 just to avoid, if possible, to avoid clipping at the top range of what the mic can pick up. So 95 is fine. But I do increase the gain on this to just pick up a little bit more. For instance, you can go to, I think it's not properties, it is filters, and you can add gain or noise gate, and you can set those volumes. So I'm running a gain of 5 in addition to the 95% volume that I've got going. And generally it seems to be a good volume. A trick to this, you probably want to adjust this with a slider. If you put any value in here and you tab out of this, OBS will crash, which means on stream you really don't want to go anywhere near this panel because this version of OBS is unstable in this view. So don't try and put a manual value in here. Rather slide this back and forward, or you're going to crash OBS and you may lose things that you've set up in it. Okay. I should also mention that when you start, there are these two things, profile and scene collection. Profile is all the settings I've just shown you. If you click on the settings button, that's what the profile is. So you can set up different ones for different streaming environments. If you stream with Twitch on one server preferentially and you're streaming games and you want the output to be slightly more, slightly higher fidelity, then create a profile for game streaming. And if you're streaming code, create a profile for streaming Twitch. And then you can switch between these and it will remember the settings you do in each, so you can flip back and forward. It's a really cool shortcut to do. I just have the one which I use predominantly because usually I just stream this stuff, but sometimes I stream on the conference profile. The settings are slightly different and whatever. Scene collection applies to these things I've got going down here. So what do each of these things do? What are the sources in each of them? Scenes are collections of sources. So for each of these scenes I can have webcams and captured windows and different screens I'm recording on. Once you set up a bunch of scenes that have their sources, you can save that. You can create new ones. So I can create things, for instance, for conferences where I just capture the window. I don't actually capture personal video. Or for streaming, I can have these different scenes that apply to different states in the stream, different times when I'm streaming. So again, use multiple profiles if you want to set up different settings and trial and error them and for different use cases. And set up different scene collections for when you have a specific format for your show that you want to do. If you do multiple formats, this is really easy to do. Okay. Now, I've shown you some settings, I've shown you some tools. Another thing that I just want to point out, there are a lot of things in settings. If you go to, chat's going to get small again. If you go to your username and settings, you will get this panel of stuff. Let me make chat big again. And there are many things you configure here. Go through this and give reasonable defaults for this stuff because it's really good. Like, for instance, I didn't have a video player banner for a long time until I saw Greg had one. And then I was like, I want a video player banner. And this shows when you're off streams. When you're offline, you can do some additional stuff here. Now, this mirrors my show is finished scene, which means at the end of each show, when I've done playing music and I make sure that the stream has run through if there's lag or whatever, I actually check it on a different device to make sure that the stream is actually finished before I click that stop stream button. If I do that stop stream button, what I'm showing in the last scene is going to be my video player banner. So there's like a very smooth transition for people at the end of streams. Yes, I saw yours, Greg. But you can do other video player banners here. You can show other important information, whatever. There are many things you can change in this. So please do have a look through this. You'll find interesting things in here. I don't want to go through most of it because I don't want to dox myself and I can't remember what important stuff is in here. But the most of the time you're going to spend in Twitch is going to be on the dashboard to configure this stuff and on custom windows for like twitch.tv/your username/chat. Another interesting thing I do, let me bring this over here again, is that the alternative view to chat is this little button here, which shows me the viewers that are currently on. So I often have a separate window for if I want to see who's watching at that moment. I'll like toggle that thing off and on to refresh it so that I can see if someone, if I need to greet someone specifically, or, especially at the end of streams, I can wait until everyone has gone off before I close them. I don't know, whatever, however that applies to you. But you can have these extra windows off screen. Like I have a separate screen for this stuff. You can have it there. Okay, OBS. Okay. The last thing, two things I want to show you. Editing video. So once you're done with the broadcast, you can actually go to your profile page. This is going to be really zoomed in because the chat's zoomed in for this. You can go to a profile page and you can click on the username of that to go /profile. And then this will be past broadcasts. You have to enable this in settings. So look for where you enable this in settings. But this will store, if you've got it enabled, past broadcasts. And then you can click on one of these. Oh, I didn't want to do that exactly. There's a link that displays down here, which is actually, wow. Where am I? Okay, it's not through here. If you go back to your dashboard, I've got to remember where this thing is. It's like muscle memory that I don't even know where it is anymore. If you scroll to the right here, when you're not so zoomed out, you can click on, let me turn this preview off. You can click on the Video Manager link, and that will take you to a special view that is not available to everyone. They can see your videos if they go to username/profile, but here you can say export. So you can click on this, and you can say, okay, I want to export this to YouTube with this title, and I mean, you can change that later. Personally, I recommend you push these as unlisted, because then you can still do edits, and we'll have a look at how to do those edits. Don't worry about description and tags because you're going to change that anyway. If you want, you can split in 15-minute segments, but for reasons I'll explain later, you probably don't want to do this. You probably want to say no. Make the privacy unlisted, don't split into 15-minute segments. You just basically want to set the title and click export. And that will send this, if you've gone through the settings on Twitch and connected YouTube, that will send this video to YouTube unlisted. So you can go to YouTube and you can click on this top left nav, and go My Channel, and then you'll get a Video Manager icon at the top. Video Manager. And then you'll see a list of videos that you've uploaded to YouTube that you haven't edited yet, presumably. I mean, you'll see all your videos. So here's videos that are already live on YouTube. But then there are a list of videos that aren't, and these are recent things I've recorded. It's basically all the videos from this week and half some videos from last week. And you can go and you can edit these. So you can do things like set their description. If you click edit here, I'll show you what this looks like. You can edit things like their title and description. So you can get a template for this. You can get a template for the tags that you usually do. You can change the playlists they're in by default. If you split by 15-minute intervals, it'll create a playlist for each batch of videos that you do. So if you don't, a good reason not to is that you won't actually have extra playlists to move around and to delete. It just won't be added to any playlist. But anyway, this view you can add some playlists. You can do translations, monetization, and advanced settings. I have some, like muscle memory defaults for the stuff that I set here, but you can just basically explore this stuff and figure out what you want to do. You can change thumbnails. Now, if you record a really big show, if, for instance, you start 5 minutes before you start streaming 5 minutes before you start doing the show, and you want to cut that up in into smaller segments because you haven't opted for the 15-minute segments, you opted to do half-an-hour segments or hour-long segments. You can go to enhancements on the whole video that you've uploaded, and you can click the trim button. And this is going to do some weird buffering lag stuff now. You can click the trim button. Then you can use back and forward arrows to jump. So let's go somewhere here. This is a show that I did last week.
Hello world.
Or like
that's really
the week before.
That's really cool.
And so you can see it's like an hour and a half long.
Last time.
Let me mute this because that's really confusing. You can jump backward and forward. Look at the time bar down at the bottom here. It's jumping backwards by like 3 to 4 seconds. You can jump backward and forward with the arrow keys, and then you can click split at important parts. So you can keep jumping backward and forward until you find exactly the right second to split. Then you split. You do this, and it splits different videos out, so you can delete segments you don't want to have in there. Okay? So say you've got an hour and a half long video, and you want 3 half-an-hour segments. You split a bit off the front, you cut the first segment up, and then you click done, and save as a new video. Then you can go and you can rename this to something like show name in brackets part 1 or whatever. You split these up, and it'll take a while to process them. But basically, you can cut the bits off the front you don't want, the bits off the end you don't want. It's mirrored, so the bits off the front you don't want, the bits off the end you don't want. And you can have your neat parts. If you do something in between those parts, like take a short break, then that also gives you a way to cut a very easily recognizable section. So here I can see, for instance, that I have a break there, because I have the holding screen there. So I can go back to the beginning of that break, I can split, and then I can export the part before that. I can go to the end of the break, split, delete the bit in the middle, and create the next segment. That's one reason why I take a break every half an hour for a few minutes, because then I can create these easily recognizable parts to split. I can get up and I can go get water, and I can, talk to the mice. But it also gives me a way to be able to split into really nice sections. So I recommend you have some kind of holding screen, and that you take a break through, so that you thematically segment your show into different parts. And then when you export them, you can split and you can delete parts you don't want. And you can save the trimmed versions as new videos. So you can create multiple segment videos from a single whole video. Okay? That is a crash course in using the YouTube video editor. You can do other interesting things, but I'm not going to show them to you now. This is just an easy way of editing the stuff. Once you have a big old video that you've recorded in Twitch and you want to split it up into smaller, neater parts, and you want to edit it a little bit, this is how you can do it really quickly. And this is how I edit these videos. Now, I'm very far behind in editing, but that's not necessarily because this process is difficult. This process I've just shown you is very easy. The trouble is, once you create new videos from these, it takes time to encode them. And my problem is I forget to go back once they're encoded and then do whatever edits still have to be done, because every time you edit the video, it has to re-encode before you can see those changes and make sure that it's okay. So I actually just forget to go back and to make sure that it's completely edited. But this process is actually very quick. So maybe you can schedule some time. Maybe you schedule an hour every few days, or maybe, if you don't have that much editing to do, you can do it 10 minutes after each stream. I don't know. This is if you care about splitting your shows up, which I do. But, if you don't, you can just ignore that, I guess. That's fine. Okay, so crash course in YouTube editing. I'm going to talk for the last little bit about the format of the show. I follow a YouTuber, subscribe to a YouTuber called Sean Plott, or Day9. And this fellow, let me go and show you what some of his videos look like. Day9. I have watched this fellow stream and record videos for the longest time. He used to be a professional StarCraft player. He transitioned a while ago into playing Hearthstone, and to be honest, he never showed himself playing StarCraft, and he admits at the beginning of every show he's not the best Hearthstone player. I don't watch him for Okay, sorry about that. I don't watch him for the quality of his gameplay, because honestly, he's not the best Hearthstone player. Not that I am. I'm terrible at Hearthstone. But he doesn't play StarCraft either. So it's not, I don't watch him because I'm watching a professional do something. I watch him because he's incredibly entertaining and fun, and his chat's fun. But the way that he designs his shows is very similar to the way that I do. Well, I've copied his format because I think it works really well. He doesn't code, but he starts his shows and he conducts them in a very interesting way. And I think that I've managed to figure out a few of the reasons for why he does this, and they seem like very good ideas to me. So the very first thing that I can think of that I do, which is similar to what he does, is that he has a schedule. And if you're going to stream and you actually want people to watch consistently, you need to stick to some kind of schedule. It doesn't mean you record every day like Sean does or like I try and do. It means you record consistently. So if your schedule is, I'm going to stream on a Monday and a Thursday, then that's fine. Yeah, YouTube editor's long gone. But yeah, buffering, sorry about that. Anyway, if you're going to stick to a schedule, then if you're going to have a schedule, stick to it, even if it's 1 day a week, 2 days a week, half an hour a week. Just try and stick to a schedule. Now, I'm not the best at sticking to that because there are many reasons. If you record every day and you're not really used to doing it, there are many reasons why you may not be able to, and I have suffered from them. Like last week I got a cold, and for 3 days I was gross, and I didn't want to record on that. I didn't want you to listen to me sniffing and stuff. But try and stick to a schedule, and once you have an established schedule, then document it somewhere. Then start telling people that that is your schedule. Like Greg is very good at this. He has, I think it's Greg that I saw that has... No, it wasn't Greg. It was someone else that I saw. Sorry, Greg. You don't have a schedule up on your landing page on Twitch. But I saw another streamer that had a very clear schedule for what she was doing. And, you know, then people can, even if you're offline, people can go and they can get some kind of hint as to when you're going to stream. And reinforce that in your streams. Say, listen, I'm going to be streaming on this day at this time, so tune in. Time zones can be a bit difficult because not everyone's in the same time zone. In fact, unless you have a lot of streamers, initially you don't know who's in what time zone. So say something relative to where they are right now. Like I try and do this a lot, you may have noticed. I won't say I'm going to stream at 8 p.m. For me it's 8 p.m., but for you it may be 3 in the morning. So I'll say, okay, I'm going to be here in X days. I'm going to be here tomorrow. I'm going to be here in 3 days' time. And I'm going to start whatever the time is now, minus a little bit of time. And so that lets the people that are watching say, okay, well, whatever time zone they're in doesn't matter. I know in 3 days' time they're going to be here, and I'm watching this, it's like 4:45 in the morning. They say like 45 minutes ago my time, so okay, it's going to start at 5 in 3 days' time. They can do that kind of thing. Now, I try and stream every day, and I try and stream my time, 8 p.m. every day. So if you want to watch this tomorrow, tune in 55 minutes ago your time. You see how that works? Try and have a schedule. Another thing that Sean does, which I really like doing, and I've started doing, and you may also have noticed this, is that a lot of people don't hang around waiting for the email that you're streaming or for the tweet that you're streaming. If they see that stuff, maybe they're busy doing something else at the time. Maybe they're at the fridge looking for something to eat. Maybe they're about to go into an online game or deciding whether they want to go to bed or not. So if you want people to tune in and you've got like some amount of subscribers or people who follow you on Twitter and are likely to pick up that you're going to stream, start your stream 5 or 10 minutes early. Please have something on to listen to. Like I always do this with music. But start your stream 5 to 10 minutes earlier so that people can get the notifications, they can get the email, they can see the tweet, and they can say, okay, well, the usual time, I worked this out yesterday, the usual time or last stream, the usual time is actually only supposed to be on the hour in like the next 10 minutes. But at least I know, okay, I need to get in a position that I can watch this thing. It starts gathering people together. Like, for instance, if you were at a conference, you wouldn't open the doors at the time the speech is supposed to start. You would give people some time to get in and to get comfortable, to sit down and to take out their laptops or whatever. You wouldn't just say, okay, the talk starts at 10 a.m. and that's when we're opening the doors. Because that's silly. Then there's like a mad rush and people miss the first 10 minutes of the stream. So start a little bit earlier, do some audio with it, and even if you hang around and chat and say, listen, we're going to start in a few minutes or whatever, and like get the talk going, that's fine. Or have someone else, like, you know, you can do this with Twitch. You can have someone else start the stream. If you're not able to start it on the hour, like a little bit before the time, you can have someone else start it and you can take it over. You can do that kind of thing. And for that, I have this waiting screen. So when I start the stream, I'm playing audio and I've got my mic muted and I've got the stream hanging so that people can see, okay, something's coming on and there's audio going on. You know, this isn't an offline stream. And then I'll usually be in stream to say, listen, you know, it's going to start in however many minutes. Then to begin with, another one of these editing requirements is that I will stop the audio, I will unmute my mic, and I will go to this screen and I will count myself in so that I know exactly where to start cutting when I'm doing an edit. You'll hear me say something like going live in 5, 4, 3, whatever. And then I'll talk for a little bit in this mode and then I'll flip to this. Which means the very first few frames on the video on YouTube or in the archives are going to be this. Okay, not in the archive because that's unedited, but the very first few frames on YouTube, once I've edited, are going to be this and going to be me saying hello, and then it's going to be my face, my horrible face. That's a really good way to start your videos, I think. That's how Sean starts them, and I think that's really cool. And this screen is just like, you're not going to go to this often unless you're saying something really important or you're just starting the show off. Sometimes you can go to a break screen, and I don't actually have a special screen that is dedicated just to say, I'm on a break, I'll be back in a few minutes. But I often use this screen to do that. And then I'll have the same process again. I'll go to here, I'll say, hello, welcome back, whatever. I'll go to the talk face for like very short amount of time, and then I'll go back to the coding view. The coding view is where I spend most of the time. So I've got this webcam, very small. This is actually just to see facial reactions and to see that I'm actually sitting here or I don't know, whatever. There's not a lot of value to this outside of the talkie-talkie screen. But I'll have this up here, and this obscures the top bit of the chat window, and this is a live chat window. When you're doing gaming and you potentially have latency like I often have, and people are asking questions about code. Sorry, okay, forget the gaming thing. Forget the gaming analogy. If you're doing a stream like me where you're doing code and you ask for questions and stuff, it is often very cool to see, especially if you don't have a large amount of people watching you, to see what people are asking in chat. They can ask questions there and chat can interact with that. And usually that's possible through the Twitch interface. But if someone's watching this in an archive, if someone's watching this on YouTube, they don't know the questions you've asked or the funny things you've said or the number of baskets Greg has burned. All they know is that I'm saying, yeah, that's a good question to chat. Because I'm not repeating the questions because I forget to do that. This doesn't work very well at large scale though. If you start having hundreds of people watch you at a time, like people like Sean do, then this is a bit more risky because it's harder to block people who are being jerks, and you need more moderation, and this like just zooms past unless you have it on slow mode or subs only or something. So this might not work for all situations, but I find it works really well for me. And Greg chat works very well for Greg, and I really want to work out how to use that well in this. But this works really well for people watching in an archive format because they can see the questions that were asked, they can see the comments that were made, and they don't need to have been there live to have that kind of interaction. Then I finish it off by playing music and putting this slide on, which, if you'll remember, I said is the video player banner that gets displayed when I'm not live, is this screen. So I have these 5 scenes before a show and during a break, as I'm starting a segment, and I'll talk a little bit on this, when I need to say something important, or especially quite a bit at the beginning of a show, the code view, so I'll do most of my coding in here, and the finished view. Last few things. If you're going to show code, Make sure that your editor has, that your font size is large enough. Try and close parts of your UI that you don't need. Try and keep line lengths short. And this is kind of really useful if you're used to writing code for books or for blogs. This is, short line length is something that you learn to do well. But you also need to have a big enough font size that people can read this, especially when they're doing things like viewing the video in 480p on YouTube. You know, if it's not big enough, it's just going to be a big old blur. Fortunately, if you upload at 720p, this is usually a higher quality, and if you don't drop frames or have degradation, then generally it's quite a pleasant experience. But make sure that your font size is sufficient. The same for terminal. Try not to dox yourself by showing unimportant information. I don't think there's anything particularly major left to say here. Are there any questions in chat before I go, because I'm just about to go? Are there any questions relating to the stuff that I've shown you now? Any questions? I know there's a bit of a delay, so I'll just hang around for a little bit, for like 2 minutes, while you catch up. And if you don't catch up, by all means ask me on Twitter. assertchris on Twitter. Yeah, or ask in chat after. I'll hang around for a little bit and I'll leave chat open so you can ask. But yeah, if there are questions about this, ask that or ask on Twitter, and I'll try and help as much as I can. This has been a huge info dump, and that's kind of the point. It's to show settings, it's to show patterns and practices, things that I do. And please, gee, I'm in a terrible view there. Please, by all means, wow, did I even show the code stuff? Was I in a finished view the whole time? What I wanted to show was use a particularly good font size for this and try and close UI that you're not using. Well, I don't know how long I was in that view. This is quite confusing. Please don't think that the things I've shown you are the only way you can do this. There are people far more experienced than I who will give you advice, and you should probably weigh up the advice they give you and listen to it. These are just things I found that have worked well for me. And when you're starting to stream, it can be very disheartening if you don't know the settings to use even. If you don't know the resolution to record. You can have 1 or 2 streams that looks terrible in archive. And I had, my first 5 or 6 streams were all terrible. I recorded for hours at a time and tried to do some editing, and it turns out they just weren't recorded very well. So, so what I've tried to do here is give you some idea about good settings to use when you're beginning, things to bear in mind when you're beginning, and especially at the beginning, trying to help you think about why you want to stream. What are you trying to do? Do you just want to have a lot of people looking at your face on camera, or do you actually want to learn something from it? Do you want to produce something that you think will help other people learn? Do you want to produce something that other people have asked for because it's interesting? Try and figure out why you want to do that stuff. No questions have come through on chat, so I'm guessing that maybe there aren't, or there's just too much of a delay. You can ask me this stuff by going to twitter.com/assertchris. You can ask me questions there by all means, and I will help in any way that I can. And if you've forgotten something that I've mentioned here, or you want to go back and get news about this, then go to the archives, the Twitch archives, and shortly after that, the YouTube channel that I showed you. Just search for Chris Tips on YouTube, or like I often post the link, it's fine. Yeah, go there and look at it again, use it as a reference, and if you have tips for me as well, I'd love to hear them, especially if you're an experienced professional streamer like Greg. Thank you. I think that's all I'm going to talk about now. I'm going to go. So thank you for being here and for being involved and talking in chat and burning baskets in chat. And I'm going to go and it's a Friday night. Maybe watch some Netflix or something. Have a great weekend. I'm going to see you in like 2 or 3 days time. Monday for me. It's like not tomorrow or the next day, but the day after that. 3 days time. An hour and 7 minutes ago, your time zone. Thanks for being here.